work. Red light means work, right?
Right.
All right.
And you're in the picture?
I was sitting there looking at it, and it's like I didn't see nothing moving. And it's moving now, so I'm all right. Thought I was lost in town there for a minute. Stuck in another dimension. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Glad to see y'all here. And I was leaving the hospital over at Oxford this morning. So I hadn't quite come up yet because I left a few minutes early. First shift come in, they said, why don't you just go ahead if you want to, because it wasn't busy. And so the sun was just fixing to come up. And I pulled it a little driveway up to the 15 now. And here comes somebody on a boat. Not on a boat, on a pickup truck, pulling a fishing boat. And
I had a very interesting image in my head.
Yeah. Well, I've seen that too, actually. But that was in Hamilton, not ours. And I thought, if people get up that early to go fishing, shame them get up and go to church on Sunday morning sometimes, you know. I just thought that was interesting. But anyway, the lesson this morning is taken from Deuteronomy, and the title is From Obedience to Freedom. And it should have been from freedom to obedience. But anyway, the purpose is to understand that freedom entails obedience to God. It's taken from Deuteronomy 30, verses 15 through 20. And don't want to get hung up on it. But when you read it, when I read Deuteronomy 30, I can't quite figure out, is this Moses talking to the Israelites before they crossed the Jordan, or is someone talking to the Israelites during their captivity in Babylon? And if you read it, it's like it's some of both in there. So I don't know if maybe the story was cobbled together a little bit when they wrote it. Have you noticed that, Karen?
I'm getting there. Oops, wrong date.
It is 25th, right?
Yeah, I was in October.
And in the little text in here, the little excerpt, you don't see that. But if you read all of Deuteronomy 30, then you got to go back, well, I did, and read 28 and 29 to try to figure who's talking when.
Yeah,
And
Deuteronomy is often like that.
there's like, and it made me think that maybe they stuck some stories together kind of to make a story.
There's a whole theory about 4 different voices.
Yeah.
And that they sort of
It's like the point of view
patch
is,
them together.
yeah, the point of view is mixed up. It's, but anyway, it just makes it, for me, I'm silly when I'm reading. It's got to be just right for me to read. But it doesn't really, I don't think, at all affect our lesson here. And from Deuteronomy 30:15 on, it's clearly Moses talking to the Israelites. It's like they're ready to cross the river Jordan into the land that God had promised. And you know, Moses is an old man by now, and Moses is not going to be able to go with him, and he knows that. And he knows that this is about the last time he's going to get to try to tell them anything. So he's telling them, it kind of, to me, it reads like this is his last appeal to them to not be stupid, to to trust God, to do what God has said he wants us to do. And he says, basically, you got the choice now between life and freedom or death and captivity. And by captivity, he means captivity to the old sinful way of life. And the life and freedom is living the life God wants as God's people, as he wanted them to do, as he stated in the covenant he made with them, and being free from sin and death. And it seemed like that would be a no-brainer. But you got to think about it that whenever you have the word freedom, it always sounds wonderful. And it is wonderful, but you have a lot of responsibility that comes with freedom. You have to be responsible yourself. I know when I was turning 16, we got a driver's license, and as soon as everybody could, they take us scrape up some money, they got them something to drive, and had some freedom. You know, you used to have some money, mom and dad. And I know of some kids, myself especially, who took their freedom to be a license to have a good time. And then when I went off to college, you know, you're free again. You're free from people, the teachers and everybody in high school telling you what to do all the time. You're free from mom and dad fussing at you about what you do. And some people take that freedom, as I did, and use it as a license to have a good time. And abuse that freedom is what I'm trying to say. You know, God offers us, if we'll live as his people, he offers us freedom from the old way of sin and death and evil. But there's a responsibility that goes there. It's very much to me like when Christ told people, if you follow me, you know, you don't have to fear death. You're free from all that. But there's a responsibility that goes with it. You got to work at it. And it took me a while when I was young to learn that when you had that freedom, you're free to mess up, be stupid, just as greatly as you're free to do right. You know, Moses wanted the Israelites to understand that now you're free. The Egyptians not going to make you worship their gods no more because we're doing it with them. We're going in here and God's going to get rid of all these pagan people in the promised land. He said, y'all going to be free from anybody forcing you to worship their gods, to live the way they want to live. He said, but that freedom means you got to work at it. You have got to choose and constantly choose the life that God wants you to live as opposed to the life that we want to live. And Moses said, choose life. He said, if you choose God, that means you choose life, an abundant life as a people forever. He said, if you choose the other way, basically you're choosing evil. You're choosing to live the human way, which is selfish. We can't help it, it's in our nature. But that's what Moses is trying to tell him here, is, you got a choice now. He said, and he tells him, he said, if your heart turns away, and if you refuse to listen to God, if you're misled, he said, I'm telling you right now, you'll definitely die. He said, y'all not going to make it as a people in this new land, he said. So basically, he said, your choice now is life or death. And, it's so similar to what Jesus tried to teach people when he was walking on earth, that we have a choice we have to make. We have to always keep making that choice. And that's where the work comes in. Freedom is not 100% free. And, after the Civil War in this country, when the slaves were freed, a lot of them struggled with that new freedom because they didn't know how to make choices. They hadn't been used to making choices. Somebody made choices for them. And in some ways, it's easy to live like that. The Israelites have been living with the Egyptians making all the choices for them. They were tired of it. They wanted it to end. But now that it's over, they got to realize that you got to work at this new freedom you got. So, that, even though this was written several thousand years ago, it's just as true today, because God has not changed from what he was back then, and human nature hadn't changed from what it was back then. To have that freedom, we still have to be obedient to God. We can't not be obedient to anybody and expect that freedom to last. That's what he's saying. I ain't really not a whole lot more to say about it. It's pretty straightforward and simple. These lessons that Paul don't talk about down the road, they're easy to teach. Because you can kind of understand what they're saying.
Right.
But anybody got anything they want to add? And I'm gonna look ahead, and we're going into, we got James and Exodus next week about sharing with the less fortunate. And Carolyn was she sent an email talking about the free market, the blessing box, and apparently there's a lot of people that are really grateful for that blessing box, and the free market. And that's one way of sharing with those less fortunate. So that's another important lesson, and one that, in my experience, and I don't mean to brag, Plank Chapel has always done a pretty good job of that. That's mission work in one way or another. Plank Chapel's always been good at that, but those lessons are always interesting to me because it's always going to be bad in the world until Christ comes back to remake it the way God wants. So, that's another choice we got to make. We got the freedom to decide, are we going to help others, which is one of the things God got mad at the Israelites so many times about, was not helping the widows and orphans, as they always say. So it's some more of those choices, and more of the responsibility that we have.
Well, if we know of anybody that has a need for something, I think we always come through.
Try to, yeah.
Mm-hmm. We may not know their need.
Yeah.
But we know it. I think we try to fulfill it.
It's always been my experience with this church that this church is ready to try to, if you find that there's some need.
Right.
And a lot of time people, and I know we're getting away from today's lesson, but there's a lot of people that have need that you won't never know about it
Right.
from them.
From pride.
And then we got all those that always begging for something that get on your nerve.
They have wants, not needs.
Some of them just con artists is what they are. Is all you can say. But anyway, I'm gonna stop this recording. Thank y'all for coming, and enjoy this beautiful weather. Till we have, I don't know how long it's gonna last. Told like it's gonna be messy about the end of the week.
Yeah.
The hurricane comes on. But thank everybody that looks at this on YouTube. And we'll keep at it. See y'all next week.